Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today we are covering Lisa Frankenstein.
Which I believe was a request from Keith Bordnow.
No, I think he had just asked if we had watched it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But we talked about it with
Well,
Keith.
we have now.
Yeah. But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So using these wonderful, wonderful chronic condition mug, I am drinking the Kilu 2 mints tea. It's got spearmint and peppermint tea.
And I'm drinking out of just a random mug that I got on Amazon. Says, don't mess with Momosaurus, you'll get your ass kicked. And I am drinking Republic of Tea's pumpkin ginger tea. And it has red rooibos, sweet blackberry leaves, cinnamon, ginger, natural flavors, nutmeg, cloves, and allspice.
And thank you to the Republic of Tea for allowing us to continue to do what we love. And for our wonderful tea sippers out there, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. So, Lisa Frankenstein. This outcast of a girl is going through a goth phase, or is a goth, and she visits the graveyard. And she's talking to this one particular person who had died in like the early 1800s.
1800s, yeah.
And
I think it was like 1837 or something like that.
And there's a lightning storm that brings him back to life, and he starts going on a killing spree with her, and he gets body parts.
Mostly to replace his parts.
Yeah. Mostly to replace his parts, and yeah. Anyways, so this movie, out of like the 8 movies that we watched for this session, is definitely like one of my favorite, if not my favorite movie. And what's weird is like comedy horrors are kind of hit or miss for me. Where it's like sometimes they're a little bit too like gruesome, or like, I don't know, it's like sometimes they just don't hit right. This one, like, despite it being about, you know, a dead person, it was just the perfect level of comedy. Which, first, to give you some context, this was actually, I can't remember if it's directed or produced by Zelda Williams, which is Robin Williams' daughter.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you did. Did you? Oh, well, fun fact for those who didn't know, Robin Williams was actually like a huge fan of Legend of Zelda, and that's why he named her Zelda.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? I know. Oh, Robin Williams, we miss you. You're such a treasure.
He is, was, and always will be.
I know. But anyway, so it is cool to see. I didn't even realize that she was even in the film industry. I haven't really heard much about her, despite the origin of her name. So anyway, so it was kind of cool, like, coming in. I had no idea. It was not until I saw, like, the beginning credits, I was like, oh, shit, like, cool. But yeah, I really like the movie. It's, at least for my personal preference, it's the perfect balance of horror and comedy. Like, it really wasn't like, it didn't lean too heavy in the comedy, but there were a lot of funny moments. And then the horror, I very much appreciated. They didn't make it too gross.
Yeah.
Like they had like a lot of worms, and then the ick was like green and stuff. So it's not like, if you don't like gore,
just like the embalming fluid and all.
Yeah, it's like if you don't like gore, this movie you probably won't have much of a problem with.
Yeah.
But it's like, I love it. It's like, I love the main character. I love her dynamic with the dead guy. I also find it super ironic that he died by a lightning strike and then he came back to life by a lightning strike and then he continuously gets shot to like repair all of his parts. Like, I thought that was so funny.
That was cute.
And I like how they did show how he died using the beginning credits, like having the short little like animation or whatever. So
You get the background info in the intro without having to get a whole bunch of exposition shoehorned in.
yes, like they show it to you without shoving it down your throat, and it's just like,
And it's in a cute style too.
yes, it's just and I really like the dynamic between Lisa and the dead guy. How like she's like, oh, I said I wanted to be with you, as in I wanted to die too. I'm not in love with you. I don't want to be with you. But it's like awkward. But then like eventually like you know, they get together. But in a lot of ways it kind of reminds me of Edward Scissorhands, like with him like staying in the closet and it's just like no, can't like have people see you and stuff like that. And anyways, I really enjoyed the movie. And I love how quirky Lisa was. I liked the dynamic between her and her stepsister.
Yes.
But I also appreciated that the stepsister wasn't like, I mean, she kind of was a jerk because she like cheated with, or had sex with the guy that Lisa had a crush on. But in general, like, she had good intention. She, like, wanted her to be accepted. She went out of her way to try and get Lisa accepted in the school.
And if nothing else, she went out of her way to be nice to her sister and try to make her feel included.
Yes.
Even if it was just with her.
Yes. Yeah. And I thought the explanation on why Lisa was as weird as she was due to her mother being murdered, I thought that was interesting. Just there's a lot of things going for this movie that I really, really enjoyed. So I can't remember if I said my rating, but this is an 8 for me. This is definitely going to be a movie I'm going to come back to. I really enjoyed it. So
I keep going back and forth between two ratings, but I think I'm going to give it the higher of the two and give it a 7.5. This movie was a really good balance of like the horror aspects and comedy aspects of the show for sure. It's a really good introduction to body horror type shows. They don't really show a whole lot of the gore. Even when she's like stitching the stuff together, they don't really show the needle going in or anything.
Yeah, it's just off to the side.
Yes. You can still see like she's doing the motions and you see it like coming up from the screen. So you can tell what she's doing. You just don't have to necessarily see all of it. I love the awkwardness of when she's sewing on the member.
Yeah.
And he's just like staring in a completely different direction and just
Yeah.
And she's just kind of like, and I love that she was using like rainbow thread to do it. I don't know if you noticed that at all. That was great.
That's funny. Yeah, whenever he like, I definitely laughed whenever he cut off the penis.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, when he did that, I was like, oh yes, he is missing something else, isn't he?
yeah, it's just like, yeah. And they kind of like snuck that in. They're like, you don't realize or know.
I was kind of wondering, but wasn't sure. And that scene, yes, he is.
Yeah. And so so Lisa did kind of get what she wanted.
A little bit, in a way, in a manner of speaking. It was a good cross between like Edward Scissorhands and Heathers. I don't know if you've seen Heathers yet. Okay, you need to watch that one soon. But you'll know exactly what I mean too. And it's got a good level of comedy, of like dark humor but also just dry humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really interesting. It probably won't be one of the first ones that I go to, especially with comedy horror. That has been and probably always will be a toss-up between Clue and Tucker and Dale versus Evil. But it's definitely one of those that I didn't hear anything about until just recently. Thank you.
I think it recently came out.
Yeah, but I didn't hear any hype for it or anything.
Yeah.
Like, my husband had seen it to stream, and he added it to our service, but we just kind of heard it in passing, and he's like, oh, she might be interested in that. And then a little later, Keith mentioned it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta see it. But it was good. It's one of those that'll probably be a bit of a hidden gem.
Yeah.
Because even still, I haven't heard anyone talking about it since.
Well, I know I have another friend that they've had several friends watch the movie, and so far, like, everyone really enjoys this movie.
It is. So it's really good. It's got a lot of good humor in it. They do really well with the different angles, and I like that they were very consistent with the time period as well. They didn't have random things in there that shouldn't have been, at least that I noticed.
This takes place in the 80s.
Yes.
Just FYI.
Yes. So they were in keeping with a lot of the outfits, the hairstyles, makeup, the technology all around.
If anything, I feel like it complimented the movie.
It really did. It just made sense.
Yeah.
Yes. So it felt like it belonged in that time period.
100%. Yeah, like with the tanning bed. And the fact that they just have a tanning bed in their shed.
It was a thing. Yeah. So I really think that they did very well with that. The interactions between the characters felt really genuine and organic. There wasn't a whole lot of forced stuff. It was pretty well done.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, even though Lisa was the goth and then her sister was like the peppy cheerleader, it's like they didn't stick with that stereotype. They had like a range of emotions. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna stay this one type of that a lot of movies tend to do. Yeah,
she started out as more of the shy loner outcast. And her preppy sister was dragging her into different situations, trying to include her.
Yeah.
But also just kind of like dragging her out there. And she started opening up and coming out of her shell, so to speak.
Yep. So realism, I'm giving it a 0.5.
Wow.
So here are my reasonings. My first reason is the guy wasn't nearly as decayed as he should have.
Fair.
I would assume that, he had been in the ground for about 150 years. I would assume he would probably be bones or close to bones by then.
Even embalmed, there wouldn't be much left.
I'm trying to remember when I know embalming really became a thing after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, because he was the first one where they like successfully embalmed him, and then it became kind of a rage. But
I think that was around the 1840s.
But I know as well, I'm sure embalming around that time would have been super expensive. So I don't even know if he would have been embalmed.
He seemed kind of well off. Just going by his outfit and his musical ability.
Yeah, that's fair.
Could be wrong.
But either way, embalmed or not, like, he still would have been a lot more decayed.
Yeah, he would have.
And then I'm kind of surprised that, I mean, the stepmom did die pretty quickly into the movie, but I'm surprised that she didn't see him sooner, because it's like, I'm sure she's taking care of laundry and stuff like that, would have to go into the room. I don't know. I know it's like, everyone handles teenagers differently, so maybe they're like, oh, well, she's going to be responsible for putting away her clothes, or even responsible for the laundry. I don't know, but so it's like that's kind of hit or miss. But really, the biggest thing that I had with the movie was the fact that, at least in the beginning, Lisa thought that she would be caught. But it's like whenever the stepmom died, it's like they had no reason to suspect. I mean, especially the police, they didn't really have any reason to suspect it being Lisa. And then the fact that, like, there's a big old blood stain. It's like, I know...
You'd think you'd at least try to clean it instead of just covering it with a rug.
Yes. Well, and she hadn't even fully covered it with the rug.
Yeah.
It was, like, half covered.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like she could have been a lot more careful with the kid. I feel like it was the lab partner.
Yeah.
The lab partner, I feel like was definitely the thing that she did where it's like, okay, you're going to get caught if you're not careful. And then her, like, blatantly lying to the police and all of that. So it's the decomposition, and then also, like, her navigating that situation, because there's a little part where she's like, oh, I'm going to get caught. But at least with the stepmom, it's like, well, they have no reason to suspect it was you. But it wasn't until the lab partner turned up missing that I was like, oh, okay.
Well, the lab partner was second.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But,
and that would be 2 disappearances, if nothing else, of that are in connection with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be sus.
Yeah. And then also the police not finding it more sus than it was that they were at the crime scene with all of the bodies. Like, yeah. And then it's like, I don't know. That it's just there's some logical fallacies and technical things that kind of fall apart. One thing that I thought it was interesting, though absolutely not realistic, is as he was going in the tanning bed and connecting, like, more parts, he, like, became less and less decayed looking. And
I think that was part of the movie plot.
Yeah, the even skin tone. And so
he was coming back to life.
Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of wonder if that was perchance supposed to represent anything as well, or if it was just to, like, signify that it's them, like, him becoming more alive, but also her, like, their feelings, or at least her feelings becoming more, like, towards him or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yep, that's what I got.
I actually give it a 2. This is extremely rare, folks.
Yep.
I gave a lot of allowances for this movie just because of the premise, and we have to set aside that, you know, this is a thing that happens. But yes, I agree. He should have been a lot more decayed. For sure. There should have been more, like, body parts and all that. If nothing else, if there was anything left that needed to be added. But they had to start somewhere, so I get it, and I didn't take off as much for it. Because, again, movie's got a movie. Enough. I feel like they could have just set the year a little further forward and been fine. If it was like 50 years instead of 150. But, you know, whatever.
80s is it was a choice. Era, though.
Well, no, I mean, like, that he had died.
Oh, died. Yes. Yeah.
Instead of 150 years before
yeah.
the movie was taking place, just do like 50.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree.
But it was a choice. It's whatever. I I felt like a lot of the interactions made sense. People's reactions to things made sense. She was understandably screwed up after what happened to her mom. And instead of just being in terror all the time and locking herself away, once she saw something new, she started to open up and grow into herself. And it was definitely more morbid than a lot of people would be. But I can see that being a direction that someone goes instead. So that seemed fairly plausible.
Seemed like the stepmom was kind of out to get her.
Yes, but I could see that as well, unfortunately. There are some that like that out there. She was like the wicked stepmother. She wanted her daughter to be placed above, and her daughter was perfect and no one could compare. And this girl came to her damaged and imperfect, and there was no way that she could live up to her expectations, and so she was going to either fix her or would get rid of her by putting her in a mental institution. Just getting her out of the way. Mm-hmm. So that she and her daughter would have all of the husband's attention. That's how it came across anyway. And there are those types out there. She came across real narcissistic to me for sure.
I'm glad she was the first one to die.
Yeah, there was definitely no love lost there. It was kind of sweet that the guy was trying to get even like petty revenge and like sniping at her by dropping a worm in her yogurt.
Yeah.
And I could also see how Lisa was seeing him more as a friend and someone to talk to, because she was talking at his tombstone for so long as basically a friend and a sounding board, that she couldn't really see him that way at first. And it was definitely different for him. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, the whole movie was kind of ridiculous, premise-wise. So I kind of suspended reality a little bit and based a lot of it mostly on interactions and reactions. So that's what I had.
Like, overall, I think this is a movie that most people will get something out of. Like, it's fun.
It was fun.
It's good. Mm-hmm. It's a good, fun movie.
Yes. It definitely drew me in. I actually stopped taking notes because I was so absorbed in the movie, which doesn't happen too often. So kudos.
Yep. But thank you for joining us today, and let us know what you thought of the movie. If you'd like to recommend a movie, game, or tea, you can leave us a comment or join our Discord. And if you'd like to keep up to date with our content, you can find our Linktree listed below.
If you'd like to support us monetarily, we have a Teespring and PayPal, or we have our affiliate link with Republic of Tea available. It does not affect the price of the tea, it just allows us to continue to do what we love. And you can find all of the sites mentioned linked below, but until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy. Bye!